What's going on, good people? This is Terrence, and welcome to SGT TV. If you haven't, please like and subscribe the page down below, and let's become family together. So today we're going to talk about pork ribs. So normally what we're used to cooking or going to barbecue places, you normally would see the pork spare ribs. A lot of you guys know loin backs, or what we consider to be baby backs, and then also St. Louis style ribs. So today I want to talk to you about the differences, but today I want to talk about just the pork ribs, pork spare ribs, and then I want to show you how to convert a pork spare rib into a St. Louis style rib, okay? So as far as the pork, let's start with the baby backs. So loin backs or baby backs come from the spinal area of the pig, right where the pork loin sits. That's why it has that nice curvature bone. They're normally a little leaner than the pork spare ribs. They don't cook as long. So you have to be careful when you're cooking the baby backs, because they could tend to dry out because it's a little less fat on those. When you talk about the pork spare ribs though, the pork spare ribs come down from the lower rib cage, belly area. So the pork spare rib itself actually sits right on the pork belly where we get bacon from. They actually are connected together. So there's a lot more fat content in there. The bones, they're a little bit more meatier. And these are normally what you're accustomed to getting or accustomed to cooking. So today I want to show you basically how to prep pork spare ribs, and also how to take a pork spare rib and convert it and turn it into a St. Louis style rib. All right, so now let's get ready to go ahead and prep these pork spare ribs. All right, so there's a few things that we want to do to kind of get them prepared before we put our rub on and put them on the smoker. All right, so now I want to show you there's a lot of fat content. You got the skirt here that we want to kind of get rid of. There's some excess, and if you could tell, you could see this line of fat here. This is actually that fat that's connected from that pork belly, that's coming from that bacon area. So little things like this, I want to come through here and I want to get rid of that. Okay, I want to cut that off, kind of shape that up. Okay, you notice here what I'm trying to do is I want to shape and kind of trim this up, get rid of some of this excess. So now pork spare rib, you're normally going to get somewhere between 11 and 14 bones here, but you can always assume you're going to get at least 12. Now sometimes if you feel right on the outside of here, you got this excess meat here. There's no bone in here. Now normally on a long cook, this little excess meat is gonna burn up more than likely. So I wanna get in here and I wanna cut this off. All right, I'm starting to kind of prep this rib. A lot of people say that's a lot of waste. Now it's still some good meat, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do with this. I know a lot of times people may cut this up and they may put it in some beans or whatever. But as far as cooking and smoking some ribs for hours, that piece is gonna burn up on you, okay? So I'm just gonna get rid of that, okay? The next thing I wanna do is, I'm a lefty here, so I wanna get in here and I wanna remove this skirt from the ribs. I'm gonna get rid of that, okay? Now, it's starting to shape itself up to look like a pretty good spare rib. I'll come around here. I want to just make sure if there's any excess, kind of trim that off. But if you notice that, look how nice that flesh looks, that fat content. This is nice. It's always going to render down pretty good on those ribs, and that's what gives it this nice flavor. It's nice and tender. But then also, because these slabs are mass produced, you want to kind of feel your hands around. Just kind of make sure you don't feel any bones, no sharp edges or shiners, or what we call them, kind of protruding out from that. So that looks pretty good. So now if I wanted to just smoke the spare rib, this is technically what I would do. The last thing that I would do is, I want you to notice there's this membrane that's on the back of the ribs. It's this thick, it's just this thick layer. Technically, I like to remove it from the ribs because it really prevents you from getting that rub or your marinade, your seasoning from penetrating the meat. So I like to get it. So if you've ever been to a barbecue place or you've been on a cookout or something, you know, you bite the rib and you got that little film that comes off on the bottom, that's that membrane. I like to get rid of that because it actually helps cook your ribs a little better. Again, you get more flavor down in your meat, all right? So I'm gonna show you the best way to take that off. So if you get you a knife, and if you notice, you see that kind of coming up there? That's that membrane. Now it's a little slippery, so sometimes you grab your little paper towel, reach in here, you can get in there and grab that membrane. You see that? How that's pulling off? You can reach in there and pull that up, and it'll come right off. Again, it's slippery, so it's easier to, you know, like, so you grab your little paper towel or something. And I promise you, if you just do this to your slabs, you're gonna return a much better product. Now that's good. Now you see the difference, I get that. So now, at this point, now I'm ready. I'm ready at this point for the full spare rib to go ahead and prep this, put my rub on to get ready to be smoked, all right? So now, what I want to do is I want to show you how you would convert a pork spare rib into a St. Louis style rib, all right? A St. Louis style rib, I mean, kind of as it sounds, it's kind of, you know, they started doing this in the St. Louis area. What it naturally does is, it's gonna square up this pork spare rib. It's gonna be an even, perfect rectangle. And what happens is, because we remove this skirt, this breastbone away from the rib, from the slab. And then I'm gonna tell you, we'll talk about that and kind of some things of what you would do with that, okay? So what I wanna do first, I normally count in here, probably about 3 or 4 bones in, and there's like a little knuckle right up in here. What I wanna do is, I wanna take that, and you have to be careful. You can see, because you're cutting through bone. I want to take this slab and I'm going to start cutting this skirt all the way through. All right. Now, here, again, I'm a lefty. You have to be careful because you want to get in here and you want to remove . So now, if you shape this up a little bit. So now, what we've essentially done, we've converted a pork spare rib into a St. Louis style rib. And you can tell it's a little more even, all the bones about the same size. And normally you'll see this, especially on the barbecue circuit when they're doing competitions. And so, because all the bones are even, they look uniform. So now the next question is, okay, well, what do I do with this? So now, if you're from the Midwest and you know, we're talking about Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, and you heard of rib tips, it's where it comes from that skirt. Because within here, you got a lot of good meat, but there's bone in here. And so this is where rib tips come from. So we're gonna smoke these the same way we're gonna do the ribs, okay? So we're gonna, so if you're getting a large amount of slabs, it's always good to hold on to these. Put them in a Ziploc bag and hold on to these and cook these the same way. They're amazing. You cook them right, they're amazing, all right? So now we're good. So now what I wanna do is, I wanna go ahead and prep this slab so we can get ready to put them on the smoker, all right? So what I normally like to do is I'll take it's a little light coating. I like to use olive oil. I want to coat these ribs. Do the back side as well. Because I'm going to use this, so it's going to help my rub stick to my ribs. So now I got my pork rub, and so it's pretty standard. You know, I have some kosher salt in here. I like to use 16 to 20 mesh black pepper because I like the consistency of the pepper. We got some paprika, we got some granulated garlic, some granulated onion, and some brown sugar. And so what I'm doing is I'm applying this liberally. I want a nice coating on these ribs, all right? So yeah, don't be afraid to put a little bit extra on there. Make sure you get the top of those bones and all that good stuff. And now the thing is, what you want to do is you want to make sure you leave these sitting at room temperature almost. You want to allow that rub to kind of set in and start marinating into that flesh, all right? And so I feel real good about that. That looks good. So now listen, we're ready. We can go ahead and put these out here, but I'm gonna let them sit for maybe another 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll get out here and put them on the pit, all right?